Hey everybody, welcome back to Paul's Little Forge. Got a fun one this week. We are going to make a Damascus knife out of a bandsaw blade. So what we did is I have an old bandsaw blade just like this one. I've got a couple more like it. And I have cut those pieces up into 6-inch lengths here. And then we're going to stick a little bit of 1095 and nickel, not much, just a hair in there on this side, and then one on this side of the center core, just to see how that looks. Now, if you notice, guys, my center core is about 1/3 of the total thickness. The reason for that is I want that center core to not have any nickel in it at all. So I want that center core to be good, hard steel that comes from the bandsaw blades. A lot of bandsaw blades are made with 15N 20, so we're assuming that's what this is at this point. And that way, when we squeeze it down, we still have a pretty good center core where we can cut with and stay hard. So that's why we keep it about 1/3 of the total width. After we're done with that and we figure out what kind of knife we're going to make, we are going to make some segmented handle scales. With this right here, we're going to use this red G10 as a backer for it, and we're going to use these red G10 pins to hold it on to the knife. For all these Damascus pieces, we're going to put them on the grinder here with a fine belt. Just clean the surface up a little bit, and then after that we're going to put them in some acetone to make sure we don't have any oil residue on them before we do the actual Damascus. Now I've got them all sanded down just a little bit, cleaned up, and we're going to add some acetone, let it sit here and soak and dissipate any moisture. Moisture in between there could prevent it from bonding good when we try to laminate it. So we're just going to do this, let it soak for a little while. So while the steel is soaking in the acetone, I want to talk to you about a legal matter that came up recently. My agent, Greg, if you guys don't know Greg, reach out to him if you're looking for a visit from him or something. Greg told us that, hey, Paul, in one of your past videos, there was a can of beer in the background, and that can be considered some kind of product placement violation or something like that. So I thought, well, Greg, he's my agent. He's probably right. So I think I got a solution for this, a very easy fix. There's a can of beer. You won't see that in my videos anymore. Now, nobody will know. All right, I'm going to stack these in this little clamp so that I can weld them up. There's the outside clad. Here we have 1095 and nickel alternated, only 6 pieces. 1095 going on the outside. Now we got our center core, 12 pieces of bandsaw blade, another nickel and 1095 6-piece layer, the 1095 on the outside, and our last cladding on the outside on the other end. I'm just going to clamp these in. To the welder and weld it up. So I'm about to fire up the forge and the press to see if we can get a good forge weld on this piece of bandsaw Damascus. I just want to show you guys real quick WD-40. I don't use flux. Some guys do, and I have nothing against flux or borax, whatever you want to call it. What I do is I soak mine in WD-40 and then I put it in the forge. It burns all that oxygen in between these layers, which is basically the same thing that flux does. And the reason that's important is if there's oxygen in there, it can cause it not to forge well, then you'll have a delamination. So putting in WD-40, put it in, it flames up pretty good for a second, but it burns out and it keeps the oxygen out while it's hot. And the first couple of presses are very important to make sure you get Now that we've got this billet all flattened out, about as even as I can get it, I'd like it a little thinner, but I went ahead and stopped right there, and I'll do some surface grinding on it. This is the design that I'm going to put on it, a little chopper. I've never made a chopper like this one before, so this is what we're going to do. I think it'd be kind of cool. Here's what we ended up with after grinding it out, surface grinding. So I'm going to start marking it up for putting a bevel on it and the holes in the head. So what I'm doing here is marking the center of the knife so that when I do my bevel, wherever I put my line up here and here, I'm going to make them match so that I know I'm dead center of that bevel. And I do it from both sides, that way we can see the center.
Now we're going to put some glue stuff on the outside of both of these. Let it dry. Then we'll scribe the line to where we want that bevel to stop. And this is a very simple Damascus knife, so I just have a little bit of nickel and 1095 that's going to show up in this. And so when we bevel it, we will bevel into where that layer is. And it's
time to quench this. It's going to be quenched in Parks 50 oil that is specially made for knife quenching. Pull this baby out of here. Alright guys, I'm going to work on the segmented handle scales. So how this is going to work is we'll glue this in with super glue, this, and this. We'll do that same thing over here. Once that sets up with the super glue, then we'll take the epoxy, the G-Flex epoxy here, and glue this to that, and that'll give it a strong backbone where it won't break or pull apart. Just going to put a couple of drops on here. This is thin set super glue, and I'm using parchment paper down here to keep this from sticking to it too bad. And I'll hold this for about 30 seconds. Yesterday you seen me glue up these segmented scales. I took them over to the bandsaw without it on camera and trimmed these up pretty good. The key here, guys, is to make sure that your angle is facing the correct way. All right, I'm gonna drop this in the acid etch. I'm using gator piss. We'll see how it does. Gator piss for me, sometimes it's hit and miss. I get a good etch and then sometimes I don't. So we're gonna drop this in there. We'll check back on it in about 10 or 15 minutes. So I did switch off of the gator piss to the ferric chloride. I checked the gator piss after about 10 minutes. Looked very blotchy to me, so I cleaned this back up, put it into ferric. It's been in about 30 minutes now. It's a pretty weak ferric, so let's take a look at it and see what we need to do. Now the nickel showed up pretty good, but I'm not sure I'm real impressed with that. I did clean it up one more time, re-hand sanded it, and we're gonna see what it looks like now. Still just not overwhelmingly impressive, but it ain't bad. It ain't bad. So, okay, I think we're gonna live with that. So here's our finished product. I think it actually came out pretty good in the end. That nickel shim in there really set this off. The handle came out pretty good. It was a lot of fun, guys. Join me next week when I show you guys how to give mouth-to-mouth to a poisonous dart frog that is struggling. Have a good week, guys. I'll talk to you soon.